You can support this podcast and get shows early and ad-free, as well as bonus episodes over at patreon.com/flashback64. Everyone, welcome back to another episode of Flashback 64, the chronological Nintendo 64 podcast. I am Gooey, joined as always by McKenna.
Hello.
And we're talking about this is kind of a unique game for us. I feel like we have not covered anything quite like Chopper Attack, but I'm looking forward to it. This is gonna be a fun episode. It's gonna be a lot of fun because we are joined by a brand new guest. We're welcoming to the show for the first time our pal Josh McDonald. Josh, how's it going?
Hello, it's going well. How about you guys?
Great. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, so our sort of icebreaker we have with any new guest on the show is just to ask them about your general backstory with the Nintendo 64 broadly. Like, what was your experience with this console either back then or throughout time?
Oh, man. So the Nintendo 64 holds a really, really special place in my heart. It's one of those, I think it was our second. So I grew up the oldest of three brothers. So we grew up with the Sega Genesis. And then when the 64 came out, it was like this big deal. My parents got it for us, and they got us a bunch of controllers and made sure that we could only play games. Well, made sure that they got us games that we could all play together with. So I remember the first game that we had with it was Smash Brothers, and I played so much Smash Brothers with my brothers. And yeah, huge fan of the 64.
Something that's come up a lot recently actually is like the concept of like, particularly we've been talking with some guests talking about like renting games and stuff, and like actually having to like make sure you rent a game that can be enjoyed by the whole family, not like it came up in Quest 64 actually was the episode where it came up, where it was like, our guest Mike was like, we had to actually, I ended up getting that game as a gift because it wasn't like a good game for the family to rent. Especially because you'd have to play it over and over. So you had like, I mean, I guess the N64 is really the perfect console if you do have a big family, multiple siblings, because 4 controller ports, there you go.
Yeah, I know, it was perfect. Weirdly, the games that we rented were games that like, because I grew up in a super small town, and so like we had this gas station on the corner that also had video rentals and Nintendo 64 rentals. And I remember renting, I think it was like Star Wars, with the Star Wars spaceship games, which was incredible. I can't believe
Is it Rogue Squadron or something like that?
Maybe, yeah. I can't believe I'm spacing on the name at the moment. But like we ended up renting games that like individually we would find interesting, and then we would go back to the games that we could all play together, the ones that we owned at home. But yeah, the renting the games of the 64, man, I haven't thought about that in a while. That's definitely a throwback.
That's cool. You like got to play with your siblings and stuff. And were you like, a lot of people have that where it's like the older brother, the oldest brother or oldest sibling in general gets to be kind of like the game influencer for like the rest of the siblings. Do you feel like you had that with your siblings? Are they like still into gaming and stuff like that?
Oh yeah. I definitely think, we definitely had that. My youngest brother, Zach, he was like my map. He was like, I'm straight up just, he would watch me play a game and then he would just memorize the map of it. So anytime I would get lost, he'd be like, no, you're supposed to go left. Or like, it would happen all the time in like Ocarina of Time, or like go through like one of the dungeons. He's like, nope, going wrong, go that way. I'm like, awesome, thanks, man.
That's great.
I had that quite a bit. Yeah.
That's great. We've been kind of having that experience as we've been playing through Metroid games. As McKenna's my, you're like in the co-pilot seat, mapping it out and stuff. Yeah, even some single player games can be good co-op games.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Yeah, it sounds like. I mean, I know you eventually like worked your way into game design or like working in the game like industry. Like, was there a like time in your life where like that locked in where you wanted to do something like that? Was it this era, or I don't know what like influenced you in that way?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. It's just kind of something that I mean, I'm sure the 64 had something big to do with it because I spent a ton of time. I think probably when I was playing Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask, which was definitely had this like big moment with Majora's Mask where I don't know what it was, but it's like, oh, this has amazing storytelling. I would love to do something like this one day.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of like, I think it just kind of took off from there. So yeah, I think definitely the 64 had a huge part in that.
Well, cool. Yeah, you're talking to the right people here when you're talking about Zelda games. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, I think like even on the Discord, you and I have gone back and forth a little bit on Majora's Mask and how that's basically, like, at least for me, when I think back on my favorite Zelda games, I always like end up on Majora's Mask. For me, just largely, I'm sure part of it is because of like where I was in life when I started playing it and stuff like that. But I think that's the story for everybody whenever they find a game that they really, really gel with. But yeah, oh my God, I'll watch speed runs and just new like clean runs of that game any day.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites of all time. One day we'll get to that. It'll be good.
Eventually,
time. Yeah. Well, I'm excited to have you on because we're not talking about one of the tentpole games of the console, and I appreciate you just actually. This isn't even a game you like signed up for or knew about, and I just threw it your way, and you were down to join us, and we'll get into it. But yeah, thank you for being so willing to just kind of jump on a random game that most people I know I've talked to haven't even heard of this. So appreciate that.
No, thanks for having me on. I played a little bit of it, loved it because I played a ton of these types of chopper games before.
Awesome.
And yeah, excited to go into it.
Before we do that, I just got a little bit of a flashback segment. We're going to let people know what was going on at the time of the release of Chopper Attack, which was June 16th, 1998. We're moving forward ahead in our timeline from June 10th. So not even a week here. That was both Quest 64 and Virtual Chess 64 were the last games to come out. So we haven't moved very far ahead in time. So I don't have a ton, but we've mentioned it already. But The Boy Is Mine by Brandy and Monica. It's at 3 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Spoiler alert, it's the biggest single of the year. So as we kind of continue through the timeline, I'm going to also point out some minor hits from down the chart that kind of get boxed out by it. So I Get Lonely by Janet Jackson featuring Blackstreet debuted and peaked at number 3. It's still holding at number 5, and it hangs on the charts until October. Drops off at number 76. Meanwhile, number 1 album at the time, MP De Last Dawn by Master P. So that's going on musically at the time, at least in the upper top parts of the charts. Josh, does this speak to you at all, this era?
I think as unexciting as it is, I think these are the ones that kind of like went down between the cracks for me, especially in the 90s. I was more of like the my household was a lot of like grunge and like 90s alt rock and stuff like that. So I think those are just shy of left for me.
Yeah, I think I can't remember exactly what was I do sometimes look at the rock charts. I'm like, maybe I should talk about this, but I can't remember. It was probably like the Eve 6, I think, was probably the number 1 song.
Sounds about right.
Number 1 movie, it's Truman Show for a second week.
Ooh, nice.
We've been talking about that one. So I've been looking at what was the number 2 movie when these were going on, and they've been movies that I've never heard of this, but maybe I should watch it. Number 2 at this time was 6 Days, 7 Nights, an Ivan Reitman film starring Harrison Ford and Anne Heche. Type of like, I think it was described as like an adventure comedy. I've never heard of this movie, but I kind of want to check it out as well.
I want to see Harrison Ford in an adventure comedy. That sounds great.
Yeah, why not? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So another one to, what was it last time? A Perfect Murder was the last movie. Okay, so add that one to the list.
Okay.
On June 12th.
Are these really necessary?
Only if we crash. Harrison Ford.
Mayday.
Hits the beach.
What are we, like shipwrecked?
But this trip to paradise.
We got company.
Is no vacation.
I just want one thing to go right.
From director Ivan Reitman comes the ultimate summer escape.
1, 2.
I can't!
6 Days, 7 Nights. Rated PG-13. Escape June 12th.
Sports Corner. June 14th was the NBA Finals. The Chicago Bulls beat the Utah Jazz. Game 6. This is the second three-peat for the Chicago Bulls. So it's Michael Jordan's third straight year, 6th time as MVP. And also June 16th was the Stanley Cup Finals, where the Detroit Red Wings defeated the Washington Capitals, where they swept the series. That was what was going on in the sports world. I don't know, Josh, if you're much of a sports fan or anything, or if you remember any of this.
Yeah, so like in the kind of zeitgeist, I remember like being a kid in the 90s. Space Jam was one of my favorite things ever. It's like,
oh yeah.
So the Chicago Bulls were very much in my wheelhouse for like just being a fan, even though I didn't really watch a whole lot of it. I'm just like, yeah, that's awesome. They're doing great. Woo!
Exact same.
And then when it comes to like the NHL and stuff like that, I am from Minnesota, and so the Wild was my team, and so I would always get a little bit jealous whenever I'd see other teams going away with the Stanley Cup. I'm like, well, all right, it's another year without that. But that's about as far as that went for me.
I don't know if we've talked hockey many times on the show. Washington Capitals, we're gonna spark joy in you.
I didn't watch any hockey. I didn't know anybody who watched hockey growing up. I do remember one time while I was in college, I went to school like 20 minutes from DC, and there was a day I went to DC and I realized there was a Caps game going on because I saw 1 million people with Caps shirts on.
Well, you've never gone?
No.
Yeah. Well, I think we've talked about this in our hockey episode, so I'll spare us that. But and of course, we're on the record about Space Jam all over the place. So yeah, that was a big deal for me.
The Chicago Bulls have won their 6th NBA championship, and it's their second three-peat.
The only thing I got for games at the time was for PS1, X-Men vs. Street Fighter.
Ooh, okay.
I've definitely witnessed this game, but I don't know. I don't know the grand picture about this game, or like where it stands in the series of these games. But cool.
Hey, did you probably get to see like Vega fighting Wolverine, when you just get like two sides of the claws going on? That's art. That's the highest form of art.
Yeah, I think they're sweet. I know there's like a ton of the different crossover fighting games, and I can never keep them straight in my head. But I know some of them are probably better than the others, but just most of them, just looking at them, look awesome, and seeing the characters together, I was like, okay, sweet. Just for that, absolutely. It's cool.
Like, oh my gosh, yeah. I remember, a friend of mine was super into them, and so anytime I go over to his place, he had like a whole collection of them. So we would like kind of cycle through them a bunch, and I got super, super, super good at losing to him because he was very good at fighting games. But they're super fun.
I think that's one of the best ways to experience a fighting game is just have a friend who gives you they're like the measuring stick, or like, well, if I do okay at beating them, I'll feel good about it. So
that's right. Yeah.
Hey everyone, my name's Darren Hupke. I'm a writer, publisher, and podcaster. My podcast is called Pixels and Polygons. Each week I sit down with a guest and ask one simple video game question. It's a random topic each week and it leads to a fun conversation. You can find it on your favorite podcast platform every Friday, and you can read more about it at pixelsandpolygons.net.
Chopper Attack is a third-person helicopter shooter game where you're part of a special forces group taking on a growing terrorist organization. You'll play through a series of missions in different environments, each with their own objectives, such as rescuing captives or destroying enemy buildings. There are 8 pilots and choppers to choose from, each with their own stats for speed, armor plating, Vulcan gun, acceleration capacity, and acrobatic ability. Before your mission starts, you'll also need to purchase your weapons, which include a variety of homing missiles, rockets, and cluster bombs. During your mission, you'll need to keep an eye on your shield and fuel level, both of which can be refilled by power-ups found by destroying enemy buildings. Choose your chopper and save the world in Chopper Attack.
All right, Chopper Attack, aka Wild Choppers in Japan, which came out in November 1997. This was developed and published by the Sega Corporation in Japan, Midway in North America, and GT Interactive in Europe in September of 98. There was just one interesting note I found. It doesn't really have to do with this game, but I saw that Sega created, they're behind the creation of Alec 64, which was this arcade board based on the Nintendo 64. And it was only exclusive to Japan. This game was not part of that, but I thought this is something we should explore. This, if anything, this episode taught me about that. I thought that was really cool.
That's awesome.
So yeah, this was there. I didn't get a ton about this game. There's not like a ton on it, but it was a really interesting game. Josh, you said you had some history with like helicopter shooter games. Like what's some of your background in that, and how does like this game relate to that?
Oh man, so interestingly enough, on the N64, I played another one called Sarge's Heroes, and they had a Sarge's Heroes chopper game, which was kind of similar to this, except it was more of a, it was a third person, but it was a top down as well. And so I played a bunch of that, and then the other big one that I played, we had a family PC, and I think it was one of like the kind of, I guess now vaporware games that just kind of came with Windows PCs back in the day. Was called Super Huey 3, and I played a ton of that as well. This one, Chopper Attack, it was kind of like a mixture almost between Super Huey, which was a little bit more of a almost kind of arcade simulator in a way, and then Sarge's Heroes, which is very, very, very much more almost toony arcade. And this one sits for me right in the center between the two. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think I was chatting with you earlier that I struggled a little bit with the controls of it. Just part of that is just because of it controls a little bit different than what I expected it to from the first time that I picked it up, just kind of expecting how a chopper game should play. And I think part of that is just from playing modern games versus playing N64 games and trying picking those back up again, where my controls were more or less kind of inverted, and I had almost forgotten how to play like that. So I got better at it the second time through it. But I felt that the controls of it were a little bit smushy. I don't really know how a better way to say it, where as you start to kind of turn left and right, you get this kind of slow, gradual ramp up, and you kind of get this acceleration. And as soon as you let go of the stick, it just stops. It's dark. And I felt that quite a bit with Chopper Attack, which I didn't get at least with Super Huey, but for the most part, it played really well.
That's like a thing. I feel like, McKenna, we have to do this a lot sometimes with these games. Not only is it inverted sometimes in the sense of like the stick or whatever, the analog stick to look, but sometimes a lot of these games, literally what you normally think you're doing with your right hand, you have to do with your left hand, and there is, I feel like, I don't know, it's a weird, I do kind of get a weird joy out of like figuring it out, like even though it is like maybe initially like less satisfying because it's like hard at first, but I don't know, what did you think about the basic like controls of the game?
They were definitely challenging to get used to. I felt like especially like aiming to while I was moving like left to right, I felt like was challenging. And then like you don't like control your height. It just kind of automatically goes up when you go to a hill. Which in the there's challenges that come with it, but in the end, it kind of made it easier. I think it probably was best, but like going into it, it like messed with me a little bit. Like if you had to control it like Forsaken, it would probably be like, for me, it would be way harder, I think. Yeah. We did play with like the left control. Yes. Left hand. They didn't call it left hand, but they just called it left. Yeah. Josh, were you able to like experiment with the different control styles at all? Like, or I guess the left-handed style? Yeah, I definitely was. And the funny thing is after I did that, I actually missed the original one. I'm like, all right, I better go back to how it's supposed to how it's like the default one. I was like, because I had gotten used to it at that point. It's like my brain already had compensated for this weird layout, so I'm just going to stick with this. Oh, you're down the road already. Yeah, I was down the road already. I was like, I'm just gonna. But I'm really happy to hear McKenna talk about the like the aiming stuff, because I thought I was really concerned I would be the only one that struggled with that, because I found that like shooting because I was like a machine gun fiend with this, because I found the rocket travel for like as it's homing in on enemies. And the bomb drops were not super duper, like, they weren't really precise. And so I found myself just laying down like machine gun fire the whole time. But it fires straight from where the nose point of your chopper is, not necessarily from where the reticle is. And so I found myself like trying to move that thing all. So I must have looked like crazy if there was somebody just on the ground looking up at this chopper who just like, oh God, he's gonna fall down, just shooting at everything. There's so many weird things involved in the shooting that like kind of added up all together, make for like almost a kind of a confusing experience when you first start. That and what you mentioned earlier, like when you're like turning and trying to aim, like that you do almost like you are kind of like turning, but you're also kind of moving, and there is like a weird momentum to it. But then when you stop. So and you have to like point yourself down often to like aim at things. And honestly, where a lot of things that are coming at you from that you have to like aim at like further off is like where like text is at the top of the screen. Like sometimes I'll be trying to do battle with something and it's like actually like almost out of frame and covered up by like some information at the top. And yet I found myself having a lot of fun with the game still. It was just very weird. Yeah, like any of my like for all this stuff that I'm saying about how I had a hard time controlling it, I really had a super good time with it. Because I found that once I kind of got my head around how it wanted me to move and how it wanted me to interact with it, I kind of relaxed into it and just kind of let it go. And it was super, super fun. The one time that I had actual difficulty, but I mean, it's super short-lived difficulty because it only lasts for a few seconds, is when I was chasing enemies up mountains. Because like you'd be chasing them up mountains and your chopper will just like tip up and suddenly you're shooting at the moon and you can't see the enemy because he's above your screen. And then, but like I said, like the mountains are so short that lasts a couple seconds and then you crest over and you're shooting back down again. But no, I had a good time. I would almost always try to like lead enemies to like a flat zone if I could to take them out. Some levels you don't really have that option, but a lot of it's like it didn't really need, in the way it controls, like it doesn't really need to be a 3D game.
I feel like, other than like the environments are kind of cool. Like there's like a volcano or like a mountain or something. So it makes sense, like designing the world and like having like, these big craters and stuff. But like in like, for me, like 75% of the gameplay, I'm just playing it like it could have just been a top down shooter game,
Yeah.
I mean, there was some like good nuance when you're like having to aim down and shoot at buildings and soldiers and stuff that I appreciated, sort of the 3D, but yeah, like the moment to moment, it's not like taking the most advantage of the 3D, but like how we mentioned Forsaken or something, like I almost kind of appreciated the simplicity of it over that. So it doesn't take like a massive swing with like 3D helicopter combat. I don't have much to compare it to, but maybe the gyrocopter in Pilot Wings, but that I'd say controls a little better actually. But I still appreciated the gameplay despite its shortcoments. So
yeah, it actually, like, one of the things I liked about it quite a bit, and I think the soundtrack, like, did you play it with sound? The soundtrack of the game went way harder than it had to. That like the soundtrack of the game I thoroughly enjoyed. It had like this almost SWAT Cats kind of feel to it, and like this Harold Faltermeyer Top Gun-esque, but put through really, really tinny speakers. And it felt very charming. I liked it quite a bit.
I think honestly, yeah, like the overall, like I don't think this reaches like the upper echelon in terms of a lot of games we covered, but the overall like aesthetic of the game I think was pretty cool. Like had neat the music for sure was one that we noticed. Like I thought like some of the interstitial songs too, like the map theme was really cool, like such a vibe. Yeah, what did you think? As I know you kind of get into like the music and the aesthetics and stuff.
Yeah, lots of guitar.
Yeah.
I was looking at a couple reviews of the game, one from Nintendo Power and one from the N64 magazine, and they said completely opposite things on the music. Nintendo Power was like, the music sucks. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't think that. And then the N64 one just said it was like tremendous.
Which is also maybe, I don't know.
Like,
it's kind of
like,
stretch.
okay, it was good. I thought one of the interesting like sound music parts of the game was like the last level where you're fighting the aliens, and it's just playing like the samples, like there's a baby crying.
I was like,
what is happening right now? We're playing a different game now.
That really feels like such a thing. Like at that time, I feel like with a lot of the games we've played, where it's like they'll give you like a secret last level, and it's just like they're just like, let's just go like
weird
nuts here, let's go to space for some reason, and yeah,
I love space.
Yeah, going to the moon was pretty cool, but like I feel like even though like talking aesthetically, like, and I guess it ties into the gameplay too, like a lot of the moment to moment gameplay, it's pretty similar, like reusing a lot of the same like assets and stuff, like I'm shooting the same type of building or whatever. Maybe sometimes I'm blowing up a plane, but I feel like they did a good job like kind of varying the environments with what they had, and kind of creating unique scenarios where like this isn't like this would be like a perfect, like we've said this a lot, but like a rental game where it's like you can play through it in a weekend. There's enough variety for that amount of gameplay, and I don't know, it's cool. Like you get like a Western kind of level and a cave level, and one where you're saving the president or whatever. It's like,
no, it's true, and
varied enough.
And really, they're doing like from a technical standpoint, like they're doing a lot of really interesting stuff behind the scenes to give you that aesthetic, because from what they're doing, from the camera angle that they have, and from the kind of scale that they're trying to portray, The game itself has a super, super short draw distance because the Nintendo 64 doesn't have a whole ton of memory, so it really just physically can't give you the entire level. And so they do that by kind of creeping up this fog of war. That's why, like, when you look out across the terrain, you kind of get this almost Silent Hill fog kind of going on.
Mhm.
And they have
Classic
this,
for every other N64 game. Too.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%. And they do another, like with the terrain and stuff that they're doing, like, I'm not sure how much, I'm sure you guys have talked about this kind of stuff before, but the texture filter, the texturing filtering that the Nintendo 64 does, one of the methods that they use is called bilinear filtering. And what that essentially does is you take a low pixel texture. A lot of textures for Nintendo 64 was like 32 by 32 or 64 by 64. Like they have a super, super low texture memory footprint. So they had to try to cram as much detail as they could in a really, really small texture. But when you blow that up, if you don't have a filtering on, you just get really large blocks of color because suddenly you're just looking at giant pixels. And they run this filtering through, which kind of smooths that out. So it makes everything look a little bit muddy. But they're playing with that by using multiple textures and blending those together with what looks like vertex colors. So like they don't have light maps in it, which is totally understandable because light maps are expensive. They don't have any dynamic lights or shadows. Again, super expensive. But the way that they get around that is if you look at when it's playing and you're in the environment and you see like those areas where the mountains meet the terrain, or areas where terrain colors change on itself, they actually are using the vertex colors as masking and using that to either darken those vertices so you get fake shadows, or using that to straight up say, on this polygon here, we're going to start like 50% this texture, and then we're also going to blend in this other texture here. So you get this really wide range of kind of aesthetic using 2 or 3 textures, and that they're bilinear filtered, so they're kind of smushy. And when you make them really big and you put them against like a fog of war, you get this really nice kind of implied detail that when you're cruising at the speed that you're going, like in Chopper Attack, you just kind of, your brain just makes sense of it. Even if you stop and look at it, you're like, oh, that's kind of muddy. But in gameplay, like in motion, you're like, this is perfect. This is totally fine. And I just think it's actually they're super clever about it. They clearly had a really tight budget because their levels are huge. Like you could fly for a long time, and there's like 12 things to blow up in each level, and there's like they're like kilometers large. But they made some really clever, really smart kind of technical choices to really rein in that performance, which I actually like as a developer. I thought that was really cool. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, hey, vertex painting, that's rad. And oh, cool. Those textures are done that way. That's awesome. Like they didn't have reflection maps, like actual reflections back into the 64 days. So they used what's called a cube map or like a sphere map. So whenever you see like the reflective parts on the chopper, it's really just like this 6-sided texture that they just kind of put on it. So that kind of implies reflection. They did some really cool stuff that once you pop open the hood, you're like, this is really simple. And they did it with really, really good effect. So I really appreciated that when I was playing it.
That's a good shout out. Yeah. Like I don't think we would have the words to notice those like specific type of details, but I did notice like while playing it, like this wasn't like, again, like I think we've talked about some games we played that have like this insane amount of like polish on them as much as like you can on the system. And then other games we've played that are like kind of like this, I guess, like like this feels like, you know, an early experiment in like having it's again, not that there weren't 3D helicopter games, but you know, like this is the first one on this console, like trying to make it work here. And I never really had a moment in this where I was like, oh, like they really missed the mark or anything. Like the whole time I'm playing, even you mentioned the fog, even the fog, like a lot of N64 games, it really just comes down to how you like manage your fog. I feel like, I don't know if that's the actual term, but like some games, it feels like it's right up on you and everything's coming out at you. And this might have to do where you're like kind of looking down, but it always felt like it was on the periphery and like it always kind of fit the vibe of the level somewhat, you know?
Yeah, like part of that is because they were really choosy about how they built their levels. Like they obviously have mountains. We've talked about that. And they have like some meshes that are in the level that you like. Typically, the targets, like the people, like the soldiers, rather, or like the buildings or satellite dishes that you have to blow up. But outside of that, it's really just terrain. That's all it is. So they don't have to manage as many polygons. They don't have to manage as many like collision objects, stuff like that. So they're able to push that fog out because they don't have to render as much. So the fog can go in a little bit further. And another thing on the fog, like I'm sorry I'm nerding out on the fog so much. I just thought this was really clever. I really appreciated this. I think it's in level 4 is like the first time that you encounter like a volcano area. I think it's level 4, where the fog, they changed the color of it. So like that's something that doesn't happen, or at least I haven't noticed that a lot in many older games. Where like usually the fog is like a gray or like a cool blue kind of thing. But this one, as soon as you start getting over the volcanoes, they just tint that red, where it just really kind of brings this level of heat to it. We're like, I swear, as I was flying over these volcanoes, I could see like heat shimmer, which I guarantee wasn't there. But my brain was just like, oh yeah, no, this is clearly hot. Look at the fog. It's like fog is on fire and there's coal under you and stuff like that. I just thought it was done super, super well.
You know what? That makes me think of different color fog.
Yeah.
Turok. You were thinking something else?
Extreme G.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. That's iguana as well, right? It's a claim, at least. Well, regardless, like that was something they would do in Turok. Like if you were in like a fire, a volcano area, it'd be like that. Or like I think in like there was like alien levels where they'd make it yellow or something like that, like the spaceship levels or something. So
yeah, it goes a long way to bring that atmosphere in, which is really nice.
Make it feel less like it's something that's getting in the way and something that's more part of like it works in something like Turok or even this where it's like, I don't know, whether it's like it's the fog of war or like you're in a battlefield or something, you know, it's like it kind of makes sense. And like if you have the right perspective, it doesn't take away from it. It's not like when you're in like a racing game and like the turn is just coming out of nowhere or something like that. You're like,
for sure. I mean, like the fog is literally it's just a draw distance limitation. That's like, it's really a hardware limitation. That's what the fog is. It's the system cannot render behind this. So it's anytime they put more effort into making that look like not the game breaking down, it's always really good.
Yeah. I feel like, I don't know. I didn't have like really things where I felt like, I'm sure the game, like the frame rate or whatever is not like crazy on this. It's a Nintendo 64 game, but never when I was playing it did I feel like I was like, I the most I felt like I was like having to overcome was like the controls, which were weird, but I never was like, oh, this is like rough or anything.
No, I thought it looked pretty good.
Said, it's like you're shooting a lot of the same guys and stuff like that, but they kind of mix and match enough, and they throw weirder things in you, especially at the end. Like they do. I feel like a lot of games that we've played around this time do this too, where like they like just throwing something like aliens at you in the end, like where it's like, okay, they were like holding something weird, like really weird back to just like plop down on you in the end and give you sort of a reward because so like there's 2 difficulty levels in the game. There's like normal and expert or something, and there's 7 missions, and if you on normal, if you beat level 7, they just kind of like tease there's like a flying saucer you see and it's just like the end, and then you have to play it on expert to unlock. And then, when you beat the 7th level on expert, you then go and you fight on the moon. And there's all these aliens, and you got to shoot out this like mothership type thing to get to like the actual final boss. And so I thought that was cool that they kind of like withheld like a total vibe shift for the end there.
They like to make you get good at the game to go to space in N64 games.
Yes. I gotta be honest, I played through it on once I got used to it, playing through it on the normal mode, except for a couple specific scenarios and like small aspects of them, I didn't find too difficult. And then even on expert, that wasn't the case until like the last level before the aliens. I actually played that one. I spent like hours playing that one, like trying to beat it. I finally did it though. And I got to the aliens. I did it once, and I got to like the final like helicopter you fight after taking out the mothership. And I couldn't tell how much damage I'd done to it, but I eventually died. And I was like, you know what? I'm happy. I saw like the end. And I was like, I was proud of myself for just getting that far. So
oh my gosh. See, like I didn't get that far, and now I'm just because you're telling me that you get to fight on the moon, 2, you get to blow up an alien mothership. I'm gonna have to go back and play it through normal and then on expert just so I could do that. Like,
it's worth it just to see
awesome.
it. Yeah.
I just have to see it. I just want to be able to say like, yeah, I went to the moon on a helicopter, blew up some aliens, whatever. It's cool.
They throw in throughout the game. I feel like they throw in a lot of small touches to sort of enhance the story and the vibe. Like I like the pre-mission briefings. There's like the general guy talking to you. There's sort of a loose story in the game, but it's like the farthest from a story. I feel like there's like a terrorist organization. You got to kill them.
Yeah. According to the manual, they're trying to build like some ultimate android that will.
Okay.
I don't know what their goal for the android is.
Even in the briefings, the guy is just like there's one like the final battle. I think he's just like, all right, it's the final battle. Here we go. Okay, sure.
I love that. The general in the briefing was one of my favorite things because his dialogue, like he always had like an ending quip before the level would start, and they were always like silly. Like he would just be like, "You were great," or "You want a party tonight," or that. The other one was like, "Be a wild man," and then you're just suddenly in a chopper and you're just like mowing down satellites. Like, okay, I don't know what's happening, but I love it.
I thought it was cool though. I didn't really take a look at much of. We looked at the manual once, but like there's like a lot of voice clips in the game, and there are like a lot of characters to pick from, and I feel like that goes a long way to give it a lot of personality. Like I don't know if the characters really had standout like characteristics other than like they're like actually playing the game. There was like a wide variety of like the helicopters you could pick from that played differently. And they look cool. Like I feel like the designs of the helicopters themselves are just like neat to look at. These
they
like
really are. Yeah,
like low poly, really colorful.
It's just like I just nerd out about that stuff because it's just it's just done really well. Like everything about it, like for a game that most people hadn't heard of. I certainly hadn't heard of before he reached out. And it's clear it's like it must have started out as an arcade game because, like you mentioned, each of these ships has its own personality, it has its own pilot. It's a really short kind of 7-mission game, and you can run through it in an hour and a half-ish. But it has a ton of replayability because of that variety of characters and of the ships. And it's just like, man, that's so nice. They've done that really well.
Okay, and you know what? The manual actually does have. That was what I was curious about. This completes it for me where I'm like, all right, they did everything right. I have no complaints. The manual has character bios for every character.
Nice.
Which is what you like to see. They're not specific. Like there's nothing like totally crazy here. Like when we read like the Bio Freaks manual and it's like over the top, but They do give you like, little bits on their characters and everything.
Yeah, like name, age, where they're from.
Yeah, here, I'll just pull someone. How about Danny Gregg? Male, 54, American. American Navy Special Forces Combat Helicopter Unit. Greg has been flying choppers longer than any pilot in the unit. His keen eye and fast reflexes haven't diminished at all over the years. He has no regard for his enemies. And then it even has a little bio for the chopper itself. The Whale 32 with strong armor plating and good Vulcan bullet accuracy. The Whale can take a shot, yet inflict heavy damage with or without special weapons. So, I mean, nothing like outrageous. This is a very, I guess, relatively speaking, the theme is more grounded than Bio Freaks or Aero Gauge. So,
sure. Does the chopper have any regard to the enemies?
Oh, yeah. Tell me more about what's the chopper's like horoscope or something. But some here, like there's one character, Horomitsu, made the helicopter with his own hands. So you get some little things in there. Awesome. But yeah, nothing, just a couple little sentences. So I appreciate them for
that kind of thing goes a long way. Like I miss that in games nowadays, where like, especially in games where like when you would get a physical manual or like like games come in a box, you get a physical manual, you kind of pour over the manual you'd be able to like refer to it as you're playing it. That kind of stuff goes a long way. I love when they put that kind of detail, even if it's a digital PDF or something like that nowadays. But I love that type of attention to detail and something.
You can imagine like what these characters are like, especially depending on like how their helicopters work, might give them some more personality. And I feel like there's actually like a wide variety of helicopters to pick from. I only played through a 2, but I don't, and I can't really tell you specifically how I feel about one or the other. I did play as one that like I feel like it kept like stalling out or something.
Oh no.
I don't know if I couldn't tell if I was doing something wrong, but I played through it on normal, and then I picked another one to play on expert, and I kept having a thing where it would like stop and like stutter, and like some smoke would come out, and I'm like, am I not like, is there like a clutch or something that I'm at? But then I just picked a different one.
Curious. I'm curious to see if that's actually like built into the mechanic of the chopper. If you want that extra bit of challenge, like I played with a couple of them, and like it's clear that some of them have more armor than the others. Some of them are a little bit faster than the others, but by and large, they all felt mostly pretty even with each other.
Yeah, I typically the one I also picked was like slower, and that stood out to me. I was like, especially in submissions where you kind of like, there's one specific mission where you have to follow Air Force One and protect it.
Oh, sure.
And if you can't keep up with it, like you're screwed. So I was like, I need a fast one. So that was like really the only thing I needed. But there's a lot of like we talked about before, like a while back, like there's a lot of like little tiny things, like how there's like the little Rambo guy who can grab on to the tail of your chopper and like kind of like mess you up and pull you down.
Oh my gosh, he just kind of appears, and now he's like an airplane gremlin from Twilight Zone. He's just there and just kind of messing up your stuff, but he's dressed as Rambo. It's the best thing ever.
It's like, okay, I would like try to go up mountains or like spin my, like you could knock him off, but I never figured out exactly how you're supposed to, and I don't think I ever looked it up. So I'd always just like try everything to try and get him off, but I feel like that really shocked us the first time it happened.
Yeah.
Like, what's Rambo doing in this?
What else? Oh, when you fail a mission, I like there's just like a little like thumbs up.
Yeah.
It's like
It's the continue screen.
Yeah.
So you have like a certain amount of time to say yes or no, but the thumbs up will like slowly turn towards the thumbs down.
It really makes you feel like you're letting it down if you say no. It's just like no, and the thumbs down is like in your face, like oh no, I'm sorry.
You mentioned like it feels like it could have been an arcade game. Like it does have like a fun arcade atmosphere to it all around.
All the levels are pretty short. There is it's pretty simple, but the controls once you get the hang of it are pretty fun. They're difficult enough where I could imagine it could be designed to keep like the arcade line relatively short because like you're having a difficult time shooting stuff down so that your death rate is probably a little bit higher. So then, like the next person behind you can get through. But then you have like, I think there's like, what is it? 6, I think, choppers to choose from. So there's a lot of variety in there. And it has like that classic, like round selection screen for your choppers. Like, it kind of like goes in that radial pattern.
That's very cool too.
It all felt very arcade to me in the best way.
Yeah. That also reminded me of we talk about the maps, like the pre-level map. They give you like an overview of like the mission and it's sort of like a topographic map. And those all looked awesome. Like I want like a framed photo of all of them.
Right?
Like they look so cool.
Yeah. It's clear that there was a lot of love put into it. It was just fun. I enjoyed it. And now again, like I said before, now that I know that there's aliens and I get to go to the moon, I'm gonna have to play it again. Because I have to get there. Like the Final Fantasy IV in me makes me want to like, all right, there's a moon option. I'm going to the moon. I have to.
I feel like Aliens is such a easy go-to for like so many games. Like we not too long ago talked about All-Star Baseball 99, and one of the cheat codes is to unlock an alien team. And I feel like it's like you're like, what do we have? Like in that, it's like, oh, we can just kind of like change the players like color and like we can just mess with the polygons of their bodies to make them look weird like easily. Okay, they're aliens, and like we can change the color of the sky and it's like, oh, it's like a Martian thing. And I appreciate that like every other 90s game, they're like, yeah, whatever, aliens, because it's like something to easily justify like just messing with the shaders and the sliders or whatever they do.
Yeah, I love it. And I love that they did that. Like a lot of times for like, especially older games, earlier generations, N64, Genesis, especially cartridge games that had a really, really, really set memory limit that you could not get past. So, like you would get games that have, everyone has a budget of essentially how much memory you can put onto this cart. When you got your game finished, and if you had extra budget, they could be like, oh, we have, X amount of kilobytes left, or, what can we fill this up with to make it more memorable or, give more value to our players, like what can we put here to make it kind of feel more fun when you get through with it. And so I feel like a lot of that stuff is probably stuff that started off as like a developer joke or like a test thing of like, we don't know what we want to put here. Let's screw it. Let's put a flying saucer there. And then they're like, actually, guys, check this out. Development's done. Our 7 levels are done, but we have this much space left. And these alien ships and this level takes this much space. Get that out in there.
I love that.
It feels like that kind of thing to me, which is just delightful.
And it's like it's rewarding. That makes me think if this is something like you said, they probably had a limited budget and probably not time. I feel like implementing this would have been probably resource exhaustive, but I feel like this is a game actually where I could see multiplayer being fun. Like,
oh, that'd be sweet.
Like shooting at your friends.
I read that there was initially a 2-player mode planned, but it was removed.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes. They mentioned that in Nintendo Power, I think.
That's too bad. I felt like the game is still that. I think that would have changed it from like, to me, it's like, oh, this is a good rental game, to like, oh, this would have some legs to like up the fun factor a little bit more. Even if it was co-op, like that would be pretty sweet too. Like 2-player co-op would be kind of fun. But also, I mean, most of the games we've played that have 4-player, it's like it's severely taxing on pretty much all of them on N64, but that would be sweet too. Like 4-player battle mode would be awesome.
I would love that. That would have been rad. Even 2-player stuff. Just like I could see like my brothers and I playing this game and just griefing the living hell out of each other with that. Just like, oh, you trying to pull that up? Oh, let's see how far you get. That would have been a lot of fun.
Especially they do have, so this is like an arcadey aspect of it too. I feel like is like between the missions, you kind of like can purchase like weapons to take with you into the next mission. And I started like, I thought like, oh, you just want like heat-seeking missiles. That's like the thing you want. But what ended up being what made the game a lot more, it made it a lot easier for me was there's these ones, the line missiles, I think they're called. It's like you buy them in group and they shoot in groups of 10 and they don't
gotcha.
Yeah, they don't lock on, but you fire and it just kind of like shoots it in like a pattern burst. And you can buy a lot of them for like they give you a lot when you buy them. And I would only buy those and I would just like spam them every level and it would like kill everything like really efficiently. So that's my tip for anyone trying to beat the game is go for the line missiles.
Tip. That's a super good tip. I went with the combo air and ground missiles, and then I also did like the medium level, just like big fat bomb that you can drop down, because I found those are great for like especially chasing down that like like the satellite truck that you have to blow up, and especially in the early missions. Like I had the hardest time chasing that thing down, and I just found like, you know what, I'm just gonna drop a big bomb, and you're gonna have to deal with it. And I found that was easy for me. But yeah, I'm gonna try that line missile. That sounds awesome.
It's great because it's both good at taking out like, because there's some where you get a lot of aircrafts like surrounding you, and I would like hit the button to fire it off, and then just kind of like clockwise or counterclockwise like turn and like hit a bunch of them, and you know, sometimes it wouldn't like take them all out, but you'd see like they'd start smoking, so it's like, okay, that one's ready to go down. So I would do that, and then with the last level, especially on the hardest mode, what ended up really getting me is like, no matter what, they would often shoot heat-seeking missiles at you, and I had to like actually figure out how to use those dummy missiles that would like create a decoy for the heat-seeking missiles.
Oh, smart.
You have to like, I couldn't figure out how they worked at first, but you have to wait till they like shoot it, and they're kind of like coming towards you, and then you shoot it, and it would veer off and go for them.
Like when you get the warning.
Yeah, when you get the warning. Some of the missiles they shoot at you can shoot out of the sky, but some of them becomes a point where you can't, and like that was a big brain moment for me where as you can tell, I like actually got really like invested in this game, where I was like figuring out like how to use the like, for most of it I was not worrying about that stuff, but I really wanted to see those aliens, so I was like, I gotta overcome this.
Oh, it's awesome. I found it was so funny. I would laugh about it every time right before I died, where like the heat-seeking missile always seemed to be like 1 mile per hour faster than my actual chopper. So like you can kind of like get away from it, but only for so long, because once that missile is on your screen, you can watch it like slow, like a serial killer. It's walking towards you, and you're like, ah! And then it'll finally get you and blow you up. But it was always like just creeping up against me. I found that actually really funny, because I was just like, oh no, here it comes. This is creeping death.
It'd be like so exciting to try to like turn as it's like turning and like watching it. Like actually felt cool. And when you get hit with those, it really messes you up. It like shakes you and like messes up your perspective.
It kind of turns you a little bit. It turns you a little bit, like your ship gets discombobulated, and if you suddenly have like more than one enemy on you and they're all taking pot shots, it's like that's pretty much the end of your run. And it has a couple of like challenging aspects to it like that, which again, like it's funny, like the more we talk about it, the more my opinion of the game itself kind of goes up. I'm like, oh, actually, no, it's actually really good about this. It's like, dang, I'm gonna have to go back and play it again.
I was like I always think ahead of time, like what we give our little scores on the Patreon. I sort of like rattle them in my head. And as I've been talking about it, I'm like talking myself up for sure. Even though I'm sure if you put this in front of most people, like they play it for like, 15 minutes and be like, this is, nothing to write home about. But I feel like when if you put a little bit into it, like there's actually a lot of cool stuff about it.
Yeah, I think there's some games that we've played where I haven't liked the controls, and I've continued to play it, and at no point did I start to get used to it or start to enjoy it. But I felt like with this, especially when we first played, I think we just jumped into a level.
Yeah,
but then I went and did just the training and kind of got used to the controls a bit. And then once I got into the actual missions, I could feel myself getting better, and enjoying it more. And I feel like, I didn't do the alien level either, but I feel like I could keep getting better and get to that point.
Yeah, once you get like I said, there's a couple levels where they throw something weird at you have to do, but a lot of them, like once you figure out like the basics, it's kind of the same, at least like loop or whatever that you're going through. Like you have to figure out how to manage like I always will like try to take out any land tanks because they can really mess you up with their missiles.
Those things are a bummer.
And then what I'll run into a lot is like, running out of fuel. So you have to like, for fuel, more money, and weapon power-ups, which are also helpful in the level, and shield, like your health, you get that from like blowing up the buildings. And then these little power-ups will like pop up and like jump
like hundreds of feet in the air for your chopper to get to.
And if you miss it, you have to like wait over it to get it, and it's actually kind of annoying. Like I wish it was just like a cone or something you could fly into.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times like I once I realized what was like where those were, I would blow up every building that I could find, because I'm like, okay, cool, there's a chance that there's like a health power up in here. But I would always have like enemies on me, like when I'm doing that, and like the box would jump. I'd like get to it, and then I would miss it. I'm like, okay, hold on, hang on. I gotta get like out of position over the box. Okay, here it comes. And then there's like, I see a rocket coming at me. I'm like, okay, hold on. Okay, hold on. Where's my value here? Like, what do I have to do?
That really sucks when you're waiting and you get blasted by a missile and it like throws you off. And
oh man, yeah, like with the especially with the like aiming down, and like the amount of time that I spent on Vulcans, like I would. And especially with that silly the radar truck, that thing is the bane of my existence on this thing. They would just like scoot around, and you're aiming down to try to kill it. I can't tell you how many times I would like go up to something, realize that I'm just past it, and I have to essentially stop and like turn, like start to like scoot backwards. And as I'm scooting backwards, like laying down ground fire, and then there's rockets coming at me, either from tanks or from other ships and stuff like that. It's just like, it did a really good job of like ramping up the intensity of stuff, especially when you had to like stop or slow down. There was always something that was basically just on you. And none of the enemies by themselves are really that complicated or that dangerous, but there's usually like 2 or 3 on you, especially in the early missions. Like the first mission, you get basically just singles, and then after that they just start to really double and triple up on you, and that's when it gets really, really dangerous. And it was just, I found myself just stopping all the time, be like, no, we gotta back up, oh crap, and then getting shot out of the sky.
That would happen to me where it's like all of a sudden it would suck sometimes too, because like I'd realize I'm like 3/4 into my playtime of that level, and I realize like, oh, I'm low on health, and like there's a million guys who shoot heat-seeking missiles still left. And I didn't do this right.
Right. Yeah.
It was always kind of cool when you got blown up or you ran out of gas, and they would just have you, like they would still let you play for a moment when you're out of gas, but like you lose control and the chopper goes down and explodes.
It was really cool. It kind of gave you that option of like, going down in like a hail of gunfire. You're like, all right, because your chopper would actually fall, and like you start to like glide down, and you can like turn and like, all right, I'm taking out as many as I can, and then you just hit the ground and explode, which is fun in its own right.
Oh, I had that happen once where I wasn't totally out. I had like a sliver, and I blew up the last ship I needed, and so I got that in my head where I was like, well, I could, like, don't give up even if you're at the end, because you could. Yeah, especially if you have like when you get your weapons powered up and you're shooting like multiple at once, like you can actually take down ships like almost as efficiently as like the missiles. So
nice.
If I was like really low and it said like 5 left, I'm like, I'm just gonna really go for like gun it and go for it. And there was one time on that last level where I had one enemy left and like almost no gas, but I was looking at the radar and they were at the other end of the map, so I was like racing over there, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be so epic if I can take it down, but I crashed into the side of a mountain. So all right.
Oh, no.
It stings, but you get the game over screen with the wreckage of the helicopter, which is also fun. So I like a game that makes me feel like kind of fun about dying. I can deal with that.
Yeah, there was it's not N64, but on the PlayStation 1, there was a game that my brothers and I played a lot called Shell Shock, which is like a tank game. And
sick.
When you would die in that game, it would do like this. There was like this like hip hop funeral that would kind of happen, where like you would get like this kind of. It was awesome. You get like this like slow kind of like basically you get a bunch of guys that are like in an alleyway, kind of like graffitiing on the wall of like your team's insignia and stuff like that, with this really cool like music going on in the background. It's kind of just like game over thing. But I'm the same way. I love a game where like it doesn't just like game over and kick you out, but if it gives you something that kind of like, oh man, that the thing that you tried to do, and maybe if you didn't get it done, but at the very least, we get to do a little send off for your attempt, which I love that.
Yeah, it's just cool. It's like a game that's on a budget, but like it makes me think of like some of my favorite like B movies that are super low budget, but you can tell like they found a good like abandoned warehouse for their post-apocalyptic movie, and they got everything out of it that they could out of that location, and it feels like the effort they put into it makes it feel like they're trying to make something high budget, even though it clearly isn't, and I feel like that, I don't know, I wouldn't say this is like it's not the most fun game we've ever played. It's not the most charming game we've ever played, especially it's not like my kind of game or setting. Like I don't really like military theme stuff so much, but I feel like they, with what they had and what they're going for, like it charmed me.
Especially when you're like destroying buildings. It reminded me of Blast Corps a bit.
It did a lot, yeah.
Just like with there's enemies firing at you instead, and sometimes you have moving targets. But you got a lot of these buildings, and they'll explode. Blast Corps, you got your game over is usually a tank exploding.
You go to the moon.
You go to space.
Yeah, that's an example of, I feel like, a game that is doing all that, and it like reaches that. Yeah, it's a cut above for sure. But that's a good call. That's for sure a good callback. Yeah, for like, I feel like this is even further from like your style of game, but
yeah,
like if
but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, if it can elicit that out of you, it's saying something.
Yeah.
I love your comparison to like a B movie setting, because like B movies are very like I'm part of a bad movie night group that we've been doing this for I've been doing it like every Saturday night for almost a decade now. And it's like so we just watch awesome. Like B movies, stuff like this. But the analog to B movies and what makes that kind of like your example of, they found a really great setting and they got everything out of it that they could, actually works really well with games on a tight the games that do a really good job on a tight like spec budget, like very much really great games on the 64, or even maybe not the best games, but able to do it really well, like Chopper Attack. Like with B movies, so much of what you can get out of a space is your mood. So like if you don't have a whole lot of budget for an environment or a whole lot of budget for like even camera crew or props, you can do a lot with low lighting or putting like a veneer of like blood on a prop and everything looks shiny now. It just makes it look a lot more high def. It looks like it's a lot more like there's been a lot more effort put into it than maybe there has been. And the same thing can be said with games like this, where, they have a super small budget, but they know what their limitation is. They know how to get out the stuff that they need to with the limitation. So they know their draw distance is super, super short. So they just make sure that most of the game is wide terrain and they don't do a whole lot of extra props. So that way they can push their draw distance out further. So they're able to kind of get more value out of that. They can't do a whole lot of interesting shaders or anything like that because they just don't have the system for it or they don't have the budget for it. So instead they put reflection maps on anything that needs to be shiny, and it just does the job. They spend a good amount of budget on their music and on their voice lines, which audio in of itself on these, especially on carts, is not cheap. So that takes up a ton of space, and they really did a great job putting a lot of stuff in there. So yeah, it just like, it feels like a really like loved B movie version of a game that just, it might not have got all the critical reception, but if you go back and play it, or like, it's just, it's done really well. It's clear that it was, it had a certain very short budget, but the people, like the team that did it, had a lot of affection for it and they knew what they were doing and they were able to execute at a really high level.
Yeah. Yeah. You made me think like, there's not a ton of games we've played that even have voice clips in it. So
right.
That is something that made it feel like, ooh, they're doing something here with all these these voices. But yeah, the mood, that's exactly what came to my mind. Like, and I wouldn't say this game is the game equivalent of this movie, but I was thinking of like Albert Pune movies. I was thinking of the movie Cyborg, the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. And it's that's what I was thinking of. It's post-apocalyptic movie, and it's clearly like they just found a bunch of like rural areas with warehouses. But in the movie, like their focus is really on mood and tone, and it's super moody and super tone, like vibey, and that's got cool kicks and knife fights or whatever too. But I'm like, that's all you got to do. I would say this movie like elicited the same emotions out of me in that regard, but it did enough to make me want to again put a couple hours into a level to see some aliens. So I feel like,
of course,
not
super
quite
fun.
The game equivalent, but close.
It's close enough. It's good.
Anything else you wanted to say about the game, McKenna?
I guess the choppers have cool designs.
Cool design chopper. Did you have a favorite?
There's like a shark looking one.
Yeah. All the pilots had little like portraits, like little like artworks of them. So that was cool. There was like a big orange chopper that I thought looked neat. Like some of them were like, I don't know if you had a favorite, Josh. I felt like some of them were like more realistic, and then other ones they weren't afraid to like get a little weird with it,
Yeah. I'm definitely in McKenna's camp where I really like the designs of the choppers. I feel ashamed that the one that I used the most feels to me like the more default model, where it was like the balanced one. It's just like the like almost like normal movie star hero chopper. It's got like normal like almost Black Hawk body where it's got like the little fins on the side. Like, all right, yeah, sure, I'm just gonna fire this thing down. But yeah, they got pretty wild on the other end of the spectrum, which I really like.
I've grown to because we're dipping into a ton of games all the time, and I've kind of grown to appreciate the like default like normal character there, where they're like, this is the well balanced character. Like, you know, for a lot of games I'm really into, I always want to play like the weirder stuff, but as we're like sampling so many games, I do like to be like, okay, what do they want me to like? I feel like if I play this character, I will maybe understand not the mastery of the game, but like the fundamentals of the game. So
yeah, exactly.
even though it's like, yeah, this is just like a normal helicopter or whatever. Like that is what I think I did my first playthrough on that one. So
yeah,
can't
exactly.
knock it.
Yeah, exactly. The same school of thought for me too, which is just like I want to know what they wanted the feeling of the game to be like, and then if I really dig it, and if I want to get really like sweaty about it, then I'll go into like one of the more like builds that has that skewed in one direction or the other, and see if I can break it that way.
Well, awesome. Is there anything else? Any other notes that you had on the game or anything you wanted to say?
No. I think everyone who's ever wanted to play okay chopper game should go play Chopper Attack.
Yeah. In the end, this won't be on anyone's top. I don't know. Probably won't be on anyone's top 50 Nintendo 64 games. I guess there's not a lot of N64 games. Maybe.
Yeah, it could be.
No one's top 25. Let's just say.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I had all these different publishers. I wouldn't say it's a midway game, but I feel like we play a ton of midway games. It lives alongside them in a lot of ways.
It definitely does. So. Yeah, and really like the soundtrack does. Like we talked already, like the soundtrack and the mood do a lot for this game. And this game, there are like just way worse ways to make a chopper game. And this game, like they handled the mood and they handled the soundtrack really well. Like it just made you feel like a rock star as you're playing through. It's just like screaming guitars the whole time. And like it makes you want to go watch SWAT Cats or like Top Gun and be like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna fly around something right now. It did a good job with that.
Yeah, I agree, and I like to anyone I would say try. I would say try pushing through a couple levels to see, because there are again at first you play and it seems like, oh, I'm just kind of like shooting guys. It's like an army game, but there's like I said, there's like a Western, like canyon-y level that's got some like Western music. There's like a cave level with like this big robot in it actually too, that is only in that level. Like there's unique stuff to find in the level throughout the game, even though like the moment to moment is a lot of the same. So,
and if you ever want to figure out how a chopper's rotors work in the moon's non-atmosphere, play through
it. I didn't even question how we got up there. And I can't remember if they explained it. I'm sure the general told us, but I honestly was not paying attention to what he was saying half the time. I'm like, all right, let's get to the level.
We'll party later.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. I'm Nick McConnell, and you caught me reading the instruction booklet for Street Fighter II in preparation for my weekly stream Instruction Derby, where I take a look at the creative, fun, and sometimes bizarre lost art of video game manuals. Did you know that, according to the manual for Street Fighter II on the Super Nintendo, Ryu was born in 1964, making him 62 years young, canonically? Happy birthday, Ryu, you're looking great. Did you also know that, per the manual for Laser Invasion on the Nintendo, the UN enters a conclave in order to select a new commando? Or did you know that the dancing enemies in Super Castlevania are named Paula Abgul and Fred Askare? These important facts and many more are discovered every Wednesday at noon Pacific on Instruction Derby over at internet website twitch.tv/Nick McConnell. Part of the Soundstone Network.
That's Chopper Attack. Check it out. A nice B game for the Nintendo 64. We've got our next game is actually kind of a weird, interesting game. We're going to be talking about Wet Tricks, which is what it's
Wet Tricks.
It's what it sounds like. It's wet Tetris. So
I kept asking you. I was like, "Is this wet Tetris? What is this?"
It is. It is. Yeah. So
amazing.
Josh, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was great having you. Great getting to meet you and talk to you. I guess face to face.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for having me. I'm like anytime you guys want a developer look at, especially like a video game artist take on this something, let me know. I can talk with the best of them, and I will spew nonsense about technical stuff on how game art is made forever. So yeah.
I think you were a great guest to have, like, help us appreciate, like, to look at a game like this where, you know, people might not look at the finer details and appreciate them. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, glad to help.
And again, like, I never know when I'm looking at the list of games and I'm like, no one is interested in this game. I'm asking you, come in blind, and you're just like open to trying it out and have an open mind. That's all we can ask for, because we're
and out of it I got a pretty good